The year is 2026. The month is April. That means only one thing. There is another 48-hour game competition afoot. The theme is announced on a Friday night, depending on your time zone, around 2 a.m. Since I'm not a fan of staying up late anymore, what I'll usually do is wait till the next day, and then everyone who has stayed up all night and worked through the night on pure coffee and willpower has probably got a bit of a jump on me in terms of getting stuff done. But what I would do in the meantime is try and look at the 16 final themes and come up with some ideas based on those. So these were my ideas. The game I last made was a dungeon crawling goblin dwarf thing. So that was my first idea for this theme. I was just going to make a sequel to the last game, but it didn't end up being the theme picked. This was going to be a simple kind of fishing game. This one would have been quite fun because, the idea of making a working bulldozer and trying to do something delicate with it would be quite fun as a game. Rapidly running out of inspiration here, but something to do with catnip and cats and random side effects. So you feed the cat the catnip and then it just goes loopy. So you can move fast, but you can't control it, basically. Yes, also running low on ideas here. If you've ever seen those videos of cats having a bit of a shouting match with each other, making the funny noises, I don't know how I'd make this into a game, but it seemed like a good idea. This theme has come up every single. I'm pretty sure this theme has been in every single final round and has never been picked. And every time I come up with the same idea, but I do like the idea of some sort of destructive terrain or something, a bit like Asteroids, where you have the bunkers that get slowly eroded away by the incoming laser fire. So something like that. I've done it before in a similar game where you have like asteroids coming and destroying the floors of a big space station. This one would have been really cool if it was picked as a theme. I did one recently with a wizard cat that could summon cat-shaped things like boulders and stuff like that, but this would be the main character could transmute into like slime or rocks or something depending on what you needed at the time. So this would have been pretty cool. I think the idea of like a robot running around and then to activate switches or pressure plates or whatever, you have to like drop a limb or some important part. So then that affects the way the character moves. This one is a very British thing. Protecting your fish and chips from a seagull at the seaside. You're down at Clacton Beach and enjoying your chips. And then an aggressive gull is swooping in to try and steal your chips. So this would have been a fun one to make. Maybe I'll just make it anyway. Falling Apart, again, yeah, very basic. Infinite Runner, Crumbling Castle, enough said. Hadn't really got very far with this one. This was going to be some sort of combination thing where you have like a character or several characters you could pick from. You can like merge them together and then combine their abilities, basically. So this one was... I haven't made a game like this before where you have two separate characters that move different ways, but are controlled by the same inputs. Also a theme that wasn't picked. This could have been quite cool as a theme. Well, I mean, I didn't get much more than a black hole, but something along those lines. It would have been quite a simple game to make, I think. You'd just be chased by a big hole. Good in theory, but I don't know how you'd actually execute telekinesis in a sort of 2D platform game without having two sets of controls, like a mouse and keyboard input. And I'm not a fan of, especially with sort of 2D platformer games, of having like both a mouse and a keyboard input. It works obviously in first-person shooters and stuff, but yeah, not convinced. Somewhat, I think this is somewhat inspired by a game my son used to play called Mimpi Dreams, where you play a dog, and there's lots of sort of big interactive sort of physics contraptions and stuff. And this one, I think the idea was like one of those choose-your-own-adventure games where you, if you choose to fight the wizard, go to page 46. If you choose to run away, go to page 80. That would have been great as like a 6-month project, but probably not as a 48-hour game, because that's a lot of work. So as it happens, the chosen theme, which I don't know where it is on here. Oh yeah, the telekinesis one, yeah. So Signal was the final theme picked. And instead of going for the telekinetic cat, I did think of remaking a game I did ages ago where you had like a guy walking along past like a Greg's or a McDonald's trying to steal the Wi-Fi signal to then download an app. But I went for something more complex instead because with 48 hours, or in my case 72, you want to make things as complex as possible. So this was the initial concept for the game, and I was looking at several ways of doing it. So initially the one thing I was going to do was build a kind of radius around the main character to then calculate the range he was to some form of signal, and then sort of as the signal got stronger you could sort of find your way towards it. But I thought it'd be too complicated to sort of calculate all that every frame, so I thought no, I won't go with that. Then I thought about the distance of the character to a source the other way around, so you have some kind of source signal, and then if you get out of range of that signal, then you can't move your character. You lose. A bit like it's remote controlled, basically. And then with this, I thought about having, repeating network sort of Wi-Fi boosters or something. So you'd have like a signal, then you'd have to place things for that signal to travel along. Massively changing the theme with this one. I thought I'd do something like what they presumed the Egyptians did to light the tombs, was to use brass mirrors to reflect the sunlight into the sort of deeper chambers in a series. And I thought about doing that, but then the engine I'm using, while you probably could do it, it doesn't have things like shaders and other sort of kind of more advanced things that say something like Unity or Godot or Unreal Engine would have. So I didn't end up doing that. I'm going to skip the first few hours, but we start here on day 1, probably around hour 3. So you have a block here that shoots out the signal. Then the next one picks it up. And basically there's a buffer. So it takes the data from one place to another. And then shoots it across. Well, I think it's probably too complicated, at least to do it in 2 days. So you could do a system where you have different sized packages, different speeds of package delivery and stuff. Not convinced at the moment. I think I might do something where you just simply have to arrange the order, keep the packages the same size or something, and then have them just operate doors and things for the layout, maybe. So thinking about it, I'm just going to do something way simpler, and I'll have some form of control unit, maybe some kind of like satellite uplink or something, and have a robot or a drone or something, and you'll be able to move it around. But when you're moving, obviously you won't be able to jump. Then you'll have to figure out how to traverse the level, move it around, and keep yourself within a range of the signal. And that's what I did. So with that idea in mind, I began drawing some sprites, because the hardest thing with game development is working with squares and sort of blocky layouts. It's not very inspiring. So the quicker you can start getting some graphics in, the easier it is to carry on making stuff, because otherwise it gets a bit dull, or you go down a rabbit hole of programmery things like the signal thing that don't really get you anywhere, and it's still not a game. So this is the basic setup. There's effectively a ray marching, a very, very simple ray marching thing happening here. So what it's doing is, at specified increments. It's checking whether that line of sight is overlapping an object. Just like in real life where signal is blocked by walls and stuff, the ray marching says, okay, at all these points where it's overlapping, we're going to degrade the signal by this amount. So you can see in the top left-hand corner, you've got the Wi-Fi signal bars. So you have two things at play. The signal degrades by distance, and then the more things that are in the way between you and the signal, so the blocks of the level, the more the signal degrades additionally to your sort of fall off by distance. So that was the basic mechanic of the game. Established fairly early on, I like to say. So yeah, the rest of it was around then trying to come up with puzzles that work based on this kind of this signal interference, I guess. Obviously, having a working mechanic, I went ahead and got distracted and started building a 3D version of the robot for the menus and stuff without having any idea of what the levels would look like, what the game would look like, what the game was called, or anything, you know, actually important to completing a game. In previous games, I've added a few kind of FMV style animations when you die and stuff, but I ran out of time, so I didn't actually end up using them. So this is kind of redundant, really. By now, we're pretty late into day 2 and a bit. I'd left the music till very late in the day and had to, I think in the final 5 hours, whip together a track in FL Studio. Usually when I make games, I'll do the music early because I'll do the sound effects and everything at the same time to make the sound effects gel with the music more. So typically, because I'm OCD about these things, I'll use the same synths and sounds as the music has for the sound effects as well. So everything kind of ties together, uses the same key, the same notes and stuff. But this time I ran out of time. And because I ran out of time, I also forgot to make the music loop. So the music just stops halfway through. So if you're an elite player, you can complete the game before the music track finishes. But if the music goes deathly silent halfway through, then yeah, maybe you need to brush up your game. So here is the finished game. I may add things like sound effects and some more levels and stuff, and there's loads of stuff I forgot to actually complete, like some of the level art and stuff. I was going to do more detailed things, but I think it works. At least it's a playable game, which I can't say of some of my previous entries, which I got too caught up in the artwork and the music and didn't actually make a fun game. So I think at least in terms of it being an actual game that's playable, that has a goal, and is somewhat fun, then I think that's kind of worked. So here we go. Here's the game. Oh yeah. Oh, it's quite loud, isn't it? So yeah, got my character here. I wasn't initially going to show the sort of signal as a line, but I thought for gameplay purposes it makes more sense to actually see what's happening to the signal, so it sort of fades out. There's still the ray marching thing behind the scenes here, but that only updates every like half a second or something, so it's not super accurate, but it just saves on processing power because this is like a JavaScript engine, so it does stutter a bit, it struggles. So you don't see that, you just see this. So there's little zeros and ones particles that come off the antenna. And then if I run really far away, he runs out of signal, and that's it. I can't continue anymore. So what I do is I pick up the sort of satellite dish thing here, and then the goal of the game is very simple. I've got to place it on here, and then he uploads to the next level. So let's see if I can continue with this one. So, right. So there's an easy way and a hard way to do this. So the hard way is to then jump up here. Oh, and that's very, very difficult to do. Oh, Yes, it is. I mean, it can be done. So I'm hoping people will notice that instead, if I just do this, whoops, if you just drop it, run away, you lose signal, you go underneath, but because you're on the conveyor belt, you get the signal back, and then you can complete the level. So, players who give up early, I've already had a few comments saying, oh, that level's too hard, and there is a really easy way around it. So the third level introduces a new mechanic, which is the buttons and these moving platforms here. So right now I can't get to it, and if I can't actually go through the level, and I've run out of signal. So what you do is you hit the buttons, you can then move around, but now I can't jump without dropping it, so I've got to try and follow it along. But it's all about the timing, right? So I can't just have to jump and then run along, and then the door opens because the satellite unit's gone onto the button here. So I think it's fairly simple. You know, both you and the sort of satellite unit can trigger the buttons. So in this case, I'll place this down here. And then using the conveyor belt mechanic from the previous levels, that moves him along. And now I can get down here. But my satellite's up there, so if I go along here, press down, I've done it. Right, so up here, so you can see I can carry this around, but I can't get to it. I can't jump and keep the satellite in my hands. So I've got to basically wait until I run out of signal. That button triggers a platform down here that then pushes the satellite dish onto the conveyor belt. So that's how we do that. So now we've got another obstacle. I can't jump over these spikes, obviously, without dropping the satellite dish, so I have to do that. Jump over here, wait to get signal, jump over there, and then we've completed level 4. So it's not a complex game, it's not a long game. This is the final level. So this brings together all of those mechanics. So now the buttons are attached to the moving platforms. So if I go up here, I need to get to this button, but I can't because the platform goes down. So I'll leave the satellite here. I'll get to this button. That will now push the satellite over here. But as soon as I try and move back, obviously that platform retracts. So I drop the dish here. I can get onto this platform. And then now, if I do it right, I should be able to slide. Oh, no, I didn't do it. This may take a few attempts. I can just cheat, by the way, because I've got the debug code still on. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I think I need to get a bit of momentum on this one. There you go. So I've landed on here, and now I just need to fall. Oops, I've not done that. I need to jump across here, get some momentum, land on the button, and then I should be able to. Oh no, I fell down the hole. Jump up here. Then I run across here. And then, hopefully, it's made its way all the way around the sort of maze there. And then that's it. That is game over. The most extravagant win screen ever. So that's it, pretty much. The annoying thing is, because it's quite zoomed in, you don't actually see all the sort of conveyor belts and stuff. So I don't know if maybe when I do any more levels for this, I might make it a bit easier to see the entire level. So this is the actual level 5. So you can see the different areas you go through. But I don't know if I want to have it so you can see ahead so much, because that makes it maybe too easy. When you're running along here and trying to jump down here, you lose signal, but the satellite is all the while going along these conveyor belts like so. So that's what happens in level 5. So yeah, that was the game development journey of GigaHurtz. And if you want to play it, it's going to be in the link in the video. This week I'm going to start playing all the other entries and see what other people have done with the theme, because it's quite interesting seeing the various interpretations of a quite basic theme. So see how many other people did a similar thing to me. I think what I've picked is quite generic, so we'll see. So yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like intermittent videos, once, maybe twice a year, about random things that aren't of a specific theme. And then, yeah, I'll see you whenever I do the next one.